Puro Preto breathes under the golden light of an afternoon that feels endless. The cobblestone streets, the colonial mansions, the Baroque churches in the distance. Everything seems to speak in silence about lives that were fully lived. But there is something no one talks about. Many people reach their 50s, finally have free time, and could be living the best phase of their lives, yet they end up trapped in a silent dependency that steals all of that away. That dependency doesn't come from outside. It comes from within, from two things that seem far too simple to matter.
The irony is that without financial autonomy and digital autonomy, living alone stops being freedom and becomes isolation. It stops being peace and becomes fear. It stops being independence and turns into dependence on children, friends, and family for the most basic things in everyday life. But wait, because here comes the part that changes everything.
Here we tell a story of overcoming, a story lived by Carla, a woman like so many others you know, or maybe you are Carla yourself. Carla sits on the worn-out sofa in her living room, surrounded by bills scattered across the old wooden table. Her eyes reflect exhaustion and worry as she looks down uncertain. Carla represents millions of people who reach their 50s and find themselves lost in front of bills they cannot organize, and a smartphone that feels like an alien object in their hands. She is not the exception, she is the rule. And that reality hits hard because so many people recognize themselves or their parents in this scene. Carla's eyes tell a story that words cannot fully capture. They reflect a haunting blend of exhaustion and detachment, the look of someone who is lost, someone struggling to make sense of a world that changed while she wasn't paying attention. Her eyes blink slowly, as if she's trying to process something important that she still can't quite understand. There is a raw vulnerability in that look that speaks to anyone who has ever felt inadequate, incapable, or left behind.
That expression reflects someone who has lost control of her own life, someone who can no longer be the protagonist of her own story. And that is exactly the moment when digital autonomy and financial autonomy stop being abstract ideas and become matters of emotional survival.
Carla is in the living room when her phone rings. She picks it up hesitantly, as if it were a strange object that might explode. Her expression changes. There is relief, but also shame. As she answers, we watch her face shift. On the other end of the line, one of her children is calling. Carla then begins to ask for help, explaining her financial and digital struggles, admitting that she cannot handle it all on her own. Her voice is unheard, but her expression says everything: shame, guilt, insecurity. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Every time she asks for help, she reinforces her own dependency. She is telling herself that she is not capable. She is reinforcing the belief that she needs someone else in order to live. And when that belief is repeated over and over, it becomes a prison. Financial autonomy and digital autonomy are not luxuries. They are basic needs for living with dignity. Carla gazes out her living room window with a new look in her eyes. There is a sense of determination in the air, a clear desire to change. While many people remain stuck in dependency, waiting for someone else to save them, others choose to save themselves.
There are people like Carla who decide to claim their financial autonomy, their digital autonomy, and their independence in managing their own money. There are people who understand that living alone is not a sentence. It is an opportunity. There are people who realize that life after 50 does not have to be marked by dependency, but by freedom. And that is exactly what Carla is about to learn now. How to make that transformation. How to move from a life where every financial decision is a source of anxiety to a life where you are in control.
How to stop being someone who has to call a child just to understand a bank statement and become someone who can solve their own financial and digital problems.
Because the truth is, this transformation is not a privilege. It is not something reserved for young people or the tech-savvy. It is a right anyone can claim at any age if they are willing to do the work. And that is exactly what you're about to learn now, how to make that transformation, how to claim your financial autonomy, your digital autonomy, and your independence in managing your own money. Because there are people who choose freedom, and you can be one of them.
Carla sits in the living room with a notebook and a pen. She's writing down information about her finances, how much she spends, how much she earns, and how much she can save. Her expression is focused and determined. Carla is beginning to take control of her life, and here's the point that changes everything. She did not start with something complicated. She started with something simple. She picked up a notebook and a pen, tools she knows, tools that do not scare her, and she began to write.
That is the key. When you want to achieve financial autonomy, you do not need to become an economics expert. You just need to start small. You just need to be willing to learn. And when you are willing to learn, when you take that first step, something magical happens. You realize you are capable. There are people like Carla who decide to claim their financial autonomy, their digital autonomy, and their independence in managing their own money. There are people who understand that living alone is not a sentence, it is an opportunity. There are people who realize that life after 50 does not have to be defined by dependency, but by freedom.
And that is exactly what Carla is about to learn now, how to make that transformation. How to move from a life where every financial decision is a source of anxiety to a life where you are in control. How to stop being someone who has to call a child just to understand a bank statement and become someone who can solve her own financial and digital problems.
Because the truth is, this transformation is not a privilege. It is not something reserved for young people or the tech-savvy. It is a right anyone can claim at any age if they are willing to do the work.
There's something sacred about watching someone have that moment. There's something powerful about seeing someone realize she is capable. Because that moment, that tiny moment when a person understands she can do it, is the moment that changes everything. It is the moment when dependency dies and financial autonomy is born. It is the moment when a person stops being a victim of her circumstances and becomes the protagonist of her own story. And that is exactly what Carla did. She took that simple notebook, that ordinary pen, and started writing things down. She wrote down every dollar coming in, her retirement income, the little money she received from time to time. She wrote down every dollar going out, food, water, and electricity bills, medication, that coffee she bought every week. Week after week, she began to see the pattern emerge. She saw where the money was going, and even more important, she saw where money was being wasted. That streaming service she no longer used, that phone plan that was bigger than she needed, that habit of buying things that were not essential. Carla began to cut those unnecessary expenses one by one. It was not drastic, it was not traumatic, it was gradual, intentional, and conscious. And with every expense she removed, she felt something grow inside her, the feeling of being in control. The feeling that her financial life belonged to her, and to no one else.
But here is the part no one talks about. Having independence in managing your money is only half the journey. Because it does not help much to know how much you spend and how much you earn if you cannot access your money, if you cannot pay your bills, if you cannot make a deposit or check your balance without depending on someone else to do it for you.
Carla had gained control over her numbers. Now she needed to gain control over the technology that manages those numbers. She needed to learn how to use banking apps, the ones that let her check her balance in real time, pay bills with a few taps, and make deposits without leaving home.
Now she needed to master her phone, learning how to send messages, read the ones she receives, take photos, send photos to her children, and communicate in a digital world that does not wait for anyone. Mastering your phone also means learning how to protect yourself. It means knowing how to spot a suspicious link before clicking on it. It means understanding that not every email that arrives is legitimate. It means recognizing a scam the moment it shows up at your digital doorstep. Because when you do not know these things, when you click the wrong link, when you open a file that seems harmless, you may be opening the door for hackers to steal your information, your password, and your money. And that vulnerability, that lack of digital security knowledge, is exactly what criminals look for. Because digital autonomy is the foundation of financial autonomy. It is not just about knowing how to use a phone, it is about knowing how to use it safely, intelligently, and securely. It is about understanding that every click, every password, and every online transaction is an act of responsibility. And when you master that digital autonomy, financial autonomy stops being a theory and becomes a practical reality, lived every day, a reality where you are in control, protected, and safe in every decision you make.
Carla stands in front of the ATM again, but this time her posture is completely different. She stands tall, upright, and confident. She looks at the machine with determination, not fear.
In the background, we see other people using the ATM, but Carla is no longer comparing herself to them. She no longer feels inadequate. She no longer feels incapable, because she has learned, because she has practiced, because she has claimed her digital autonomy.
And here is the point no one mentions. This transformation did not happen by magic. It happened because Carla was intentional, because Carla asked for help, because Carla was willing to learn, even if it meant admitting she did not know. It all started weeks ago when Carla walked into the bank and asked to speak with the manager. Yes, she asked for help, but this time she did not ask the manager to do it for her. She asked the manager to teach her. And the manager, a patient and understanding man, sat down with Carla and showed her, step by step, how to use the ATM.
He showed her where to insert the card. He showed her how to type the PIN. He showed her which buttons to press to check her balance, withdraw cash, and make transfers. Most importantly, he explained what each button meant. He did not just show her, he taught her. And Carla wrote everything down in a small notebook she kept in her purse.
But Carla did not stop there. She knew a single explanation would not be enough. She knew she needed to practice. So when she got home, she picked up her smartphone, that device that once seemed so complicated, and started searching for videos on YouTube. She typed how to use an ATM into the search bar.
She found dozens of videos made specifically for people like her. Videos that explained step by step how to use the machine. Videos that showed the screen, explained every option, and answered the most common questions. Carla watched those videos once, twice, 3 times. She paused, replayed, and took notes. And with every video she watched, she felt a little more confident. Next, Carla learned to use her bank's mobile app. She asked her son for help downloading it, but again she did not ask him to use the app for her. She asked him to show her how to use it. Her son patiently walked her through every button, every option, and every feature. He showed her how to log in, check her balance, review transactions, and make transfers. And Carla, once again, wrote it all down in her notebook. But here is the crucial point. Carla did not just take notes. She practiced. She opened the app every single day. She clicked every button, explored every option, and learned what everything meant. She was not afraid to make mistakes because she knew mistakes were part of the learning process. When she stumbled, she simply went back and tried again. She watched the YouTube videos again. She called her son again. She went back to the bank and asked the manager again. Because Carla understood something fundamental. Learning is a process, not a destination. And that process requires patience, practice, and persistence. Now, weeks later, Carla is here in front of the ATM and she knows exactly what to do. She inserts her card, she types her PIN, she presses the right buttons, and the machine responds. She did it. She achieved digital autonomy when it comes to using the ATM. But here's the truth that will change your life. The method Carla used to learn the ATM is the exact same method she can use to learn any other app. Any of them. No exception. Want to learn how to shop online? The same process. Search YouTube for how to shop online safely. Watch the videos. Write down the steps. Ask for help when needed. Practice. Make mistakes. Try again. and in a few weeks you will be shopping online with the same confidence Carla now has at the ATM. Want to learn how to use WhatsApp to talk to your family? The same process. Search how to use WhatsApp for beginners. Watch the videos, take notes, practice, ask for help, and soon you will be sending messages, photos, and even making video calls to your children and grandchildren. Want to learn how to use email? The same process. Want to use Google Maps to find your way? The same process. Want to use Spotify to listen to music? The same process. Want to use Netflix to watch movies? The same process. Want to use Instagram to share photos with your family? The same process. Because when you understand this, when you truly internalize this truth, you realize that digital autonomy is not a luxury reserved for the young or the tech-savvy. It is not something you have to be born knowing. It is not something only people with IT degrees can achieve. It is a right that anyone can claim at any age if they are willing to do the work. And that work is not as complicated as it seems. It is not as scary as it seems. It is not as impossible as it seems. It is just a series of small steps, small practices, and small victories that, when added together, create a profound transformation. It is just you, a phone or a computer, an internet connection, and the willingness to learn. It is just patience. It is just practice. It is just persistence. Because the truth is that you are more capable than you think. You are smarter than you believe. You are stronger than you imagine. And when you finally realize this, when you finally internalize this truth, you will see that digital autonomy is not a privilege. It is a right, and that right is within your reach. You just have to be willing to reach for it.
Carla is in her living room, living her life. She's using her phone to make a purchase, handle her financial tasks, and stay in touch with friends. Her expression is peaceful, the expression of someone who is in control of her own life.
Carla is living at her own pace without depending on anyone. And here's the truth no one talks about. When you achieve financial autonomy and digital autonomy, you do not just solve practical problems, you reclaim your dignity. You reclaim your freedom. You reclaim the feeling of being the protagonist of your own story. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become someone who is in control of her own life. And that feeling, that sense of being in control, changes everything.
Carla is at the window of her home, looking out at the streets of Ouro Preto. Her expression is peaceful, the expression of someone who has finally found control over her own life. Carla is living her life at her own pace without depending on anyone. She is alone, but she does not feel lonely. She feels free. And that is exactly what you just learned in this video. How to claim your digital autonomy, your financial autonomy, and your independence in managing your own money. And how to live alone after 50, not with loneliness, but with freedom, dignity, and peace. Because living alone is not a sentence, it is an opportunity, and that opportunity is within your reach.
Share Mary's story. Someone you know needs to hear that it is never too late to do what truly matters.